Hello, people online. I kind of wanted to chat a little bit about accountability and its relation to love, which doesn't seem so intuitive to me, but I've been thinking about it. And so, accountability, what is it, first off? Accountability is similar to holding yourself responsible, right? It is accepting the truth of your actions without the mental ego bias of it, right? Without justifications, without mental gymnastics. Accountability is looking directly at the cause, the actions, the effect, all of it, and not putting yourself in the equation, but looking at it just as a situation so that you can see if you were right or wrong. Accountability demands that we feel shame when it's deserved, and it also demands that we feel pride when it's deserved. When we take accountability, when we accept responsibility, this is actually an act of self love. Because when we're honest with ourselves, when we can own up to what we've done, when we can make amends, when we can feel remorse, when we can move through the necessary emotions to grow, that's the path of growth, right? And the path of growth is the one of self-love, right? Because when we love ourselves, we want to grow every day. And so too with holding one another accountable as one species of humanity, I think is the loving way to go forward in that regard. And I think it needs to be done with the right intentions, without anger, without pride, without moral grandstanding. Needs to be done out of love, because we love ourselves and we want ourselves to grow as a species. We need to hold each other accountable, and we also need to be willing to accept when others want to hold us accountable out of love, not out of their own ego, right? Because who's really in the right there? But when we can have that pure intention of like desire to grow as a species being the reason why we want to say, hey, this is wrong, or hey, we need to do this. One, we also have to be doing it ourselves, if we find ourselves in that position, right? But two, like, it can't come out of, I think this way because I know I'm better than you, right? Because that's the thing, we're not better than them. And that is a hell of a thing to accept as an ego. Spirit accepts it, but I think ego wants to be like, well, I got to be better than like Hitler or something. But it's like, really, we're all kind of one consciousness on a journey. And so we've all embodied the worst and the best of ourselves as a species of humanity, right? We are no lower than our common denominator or greater than it. We all kind of are a balance in one, and we're spiritually, though body and mind are different than spirit, right? Spiritually, we're all kind of that one, right? And so we are no better or worse as a spirit. Now, our mind and body can ignore spirit and choose to go its own way and do some really, really terrible stuff. And that's not great. But that's kind of just part of what happens when you live in an infinite existence, right? You'll get every possibility, even the worst of the worst. But that also means, too, that we get the best of the best, right? And so how do we, I don't think we as humans have achieved that yet, per se. I haven't in my own personal life met that. It's not commonplace to be like the actual best version of yourself without thinking, just thinking you're the best version of yourself. Because a lot of people out there think they're the best version of themselves, right? They think they're hot shit, and they're just kind of assholes. But like, to actually be the best version of ourselves, to be that person, and we do, I think all of us know at least one person that's that kind of person. When they walk into the room, that it feels as though a weight has been lifted, and people smile and they just feel lighter when this person is around. And this person isn't perfect. They don't claim to be perfect. They are very human, and that they go through struggles and that they make mistakes. The difference is, though, that these people, you can tell, genuinely have good intentions, because when they recognize that they've made a mistake, they feel remorse, and it motivates them to try and change and do better, right? And so these are good things that, and part of life that is supposed to happen, right? Not things we need to feel shame for. Mistakes aren't anything that we can ever hope to avoid, really. But the important part is taking the accountability after we make the mistakes, right? And so that's why, when we love ourselves, we know that we deserve to hold ourselves accountable. to be honest with ourselves so that we have the opportunity to see life as it truly is and choose our path autonomously from there. And so, yeah, I think that all of humanity needs to start holding itself more accountable. We need to think about every single repercussion of our actions, how we are hurting the planet, how we are hurting other animal species by taking their land, inhumanely farming them. I don't necessarily believe that there's anything evil about eating animals, but I do full-heartedly believe that the current way of mass agriculture is disgustingly evil. It's inhumane, it's unethical, it's immoral. And that needs to stop. You know, we need to be having larger and larger discussions like this as a species and holding ourselves accountable. Why have we divided ourselves up with borders and guns? Why are we doing this? It's not going to get us anywhere productive, is it? To not work together. We all are different, and that is why we need each other, because we all have different skills and we all have different perspectives, and together our multifaceted view is a beautiful diamond in a way, you know? It's what makes us us, to be all different people. And so, yeah, I think that a lot of friction would end in humanity's experience if we could all actually figure out how to hold ourselves accountable, and therefore, once we can do that, we can see how to hold ourselves accountable as a species, right? And so, you know, I really think in a practical way that you can take all this gobbledygook is that we all, myself included, need to figure out how we can continue to grow our sense of accountability in life. And so that means really being honest when we're being selfish or being ungrateful or all of these negative things. We have to not shame ourselves for it and just wish we were different. We have to say, yes, I was that. Feel the pain of it, because that's how we know we don't want to be that, right? We have to feel the pain of it. When we ignore that pain, we kind of like grow numb to the fact that like being these things makes us feel that way, and we don't care as much, right? And so I think that's how a lot of pathology is like born, and the brain just like malfunctions in that way, right? And so, yeah, if in a practical way, the more we can allow ourselves to get in tune with those negative emotions without feeling shame for them, the sooner they pass, first off, when we just allow them to be there without feeling them and thinking, oh, I shouldn't be feeling this, I don't want to feel this, that is fighting the feeling. It's not feeling the feeling. And it's really hard, especially if you're someone like me who's in their head a lot. And so, yeah, getting out of your own head and getting into your body, your emotional body, you know, and feeling those things, letting them pass, and then saying, okay, this is what I've done. And then letting go of that need to judge yourself for it. Who are you to judge? Think about it. There are a ton of terrible people that have existed in this world, you know? Who are you to judge who you are, and what are you judging off of? Is it the rest of humanity? Like, what's the standard, right? So once you can see that it's illogical to be judging yourself off of these random standards, you know, you can say, okay, I don't need to fight it. I don't need to judge it. How do I go forward now? What can I learn from the mistake? How do I not make it again? How do I do better next time, right? And yeah, so accountability is the vehicle for growth, you know? And so that's why I really honor the people in my life that will tell me when I'm being stupid. Thank you. Like, I like that. And I may not like it at first, I'm not gonna lie, because I'm still human, right? We all are. Both a blessing and a curse to be human. So sometimes our instinct is to like be offended and have our ego feel like bruised when someone does come at us with accountability, because it is pointing out, it is mirroring to us how we are not accepting accountability. To see the truth lets us know when we are living in a lie. And so, yeah, it can be really upsetting at first, but if you are genuinely one of those good people, you will remain open to the idea that you're not going to be right 100% of the time. And you will at least ask, is this one of those places where I can learn? And not every conflict is necessarily a place for you to learn. Sometimes it's a place for other people to learn. But it's always good to ask if this is one of those times. So, yeah, I'm hoping that eventually, as a species, we can grow to understand that all this ugliness that's rearing its head in our politics and our people is something that we need to be holding each other accountable for. We need to be saying, you can't treat other people this way. And we need to figure out where we go from there. Like, we can't just keep allowing bigots into our lives, not even the mildest of ones. I know that sounds very intolerant, but again, tolerance paradox, yada yada. There's a whole video on it, you can go watch it. I ramble there too. But yeah, we need accountability. And so maybe that accountability looks like sitting down with your racist Uncle Randy and asking him, what is it that makes him have this negative connotation of whatever color people he doesn't like? What is he really afraid of? And let's be willing to be compassionate and hold space for these people. And I know that is such an impossible seeming task. I can't say I've done it yet, but I do think in theory that it would be possibly something that could be effective. Sitting down with them with love and not judgment, not saying, I think you're stupid because you think this way, or I think you're ignorant, or I think you're hateful. Even if this is what we're thinking, we need to be able to set aside our own feelings and be the example of what it is to let go of our own stereotypes, judgments, and all of that, and really just love people where they're at and try to see where they're coming from. And so maybe after we do that, maybe they would be willing to expand their own concept of empathy and think about if they were someone who was born black, if they're a racist, or born in the body of a male, but having a feminine identity. Ask them what they would do in life if that was them. How would they respond to the people like them now? You know, and really just, I think all of us asking these questions of putting ourselves in other people's shoes will help us grow empathy just as a mental exercise, you know? And maybe teaching people who are less tolerant to do these kinds of things and letting us do it with them too, I think could be helpful. And I think can help us hold each other accountable as a species. And I think this is how we find a love-filled protest that Ram Dass spoke of. And so, yeah, I am tired of the hatred, so I have to let go of my own hatred. I can pretend it's coming from everywhere else, and maybe it is around a lot, but so is love. All of it is around everywhere. We just have to pick what we see, and it's so hard. It really is. Because the physical reality will present us what we are told is the only truth, right? But sometimes we know things that the physical doesn't explain, and sometimes we feel things in a way that maybe science hasn't explained yet. But that's also too sometimes how we figure science things out, right? Someone's hunch, someone's unexplainable. So we can't really deny the reality of that, right? Both the physical and the intangible are real. I mean, it's actually proven that the intangible is real. I mean, think of gravity or, air pressure. We can't touch it, taste it, see it, but we can, I guess, feel it. Well, we can't grab it, like air pressure, but, it's that intangible bit. So yeah. Practical ways of holding ourselves accountable are just allowing ourselves to notice those negative emotions that we might be feeling, or those negative behaviors or actions that we take, and really saying, why am I doing this? Coming at ourselves with compassion and trying to figure out the root cause so that we can deliver the remedy, right? That's how we heal. We can't treat what we don't know, right? If you don't know what's wrong, you don't know what medicine to give. So I hope that everyone has I guess, peaceful journey into discovering self-accountability, and that you give yourself so much grace, and that you smile when you look at the beautiful transformation that you've made. I hope that happens for everyone. Bye, guys.